one of those days that I pray that I just can live again. So fuck Bill Murray, cause it's one of those days that I wish I could rewind.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Third and Short Saturday show. We are going to be going through this week's NFL games on Sky and some fantasy questions and fantasy other stuff. As you know, I'm not the usual host. Tom is our usual host, but he's on his way to the London games, so he's unfortunately not available this Saturday afternoon. So you've got me instead, and as usual, joining me is Mark. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, Bones. I'm good. You know, like it's a really good fantasy week this week on Sky. I was saying to you before off air, I think this has got the potential to be a really high scoring week. If you've got players playing in these games that we're covering, I think there's going to be lots of fantasy chatter for people, and there is going to be some matchups. I mean, when you look at it on paper, you think, oh, well, it's maybe not the most, like star diverse selection of weeks, games, but there's definitely matchups within here which we can highlight,
Yeah, for sure. In fact, let's put the weekly graphic up of the games in the bottom corner so we can see them. So, I mean, I guess we just get straight into this. First game of the week, Bucks-Eagles. I think this is going to be an interesting. That we already had that, didn't we? That was Thursday. I'm losing the plot. It's not. It was a good game. It was a good game. Eagles did better than I thought.
I've noticed on Sky here they haven't got the Miami Jags game, so let's remember to cover that one as well.
Oh yeah,
I think it's on BBC, so we'll cover that one. We'll cover that one first. But yeah, the Bucks-Eagles game was a decent game. I tell you what, I'm impressed by Devonta Smith week in, week out. I am. I think the rub on him coming in, wasn't it? Was is he too light to play in the NFL? And me and you both said he's been light all his college career, and he was able. It's not like he was new to playing at 165, 170 pounds. He's been that all the way through his college career, and I'm just continually impressed with how good he looks as a complete receiver. And I think he's going to be one of those players who are going to be who's going to be good for a long time if he can stay fit and injury free. I think he's going to have I think Eagles fans have to feel very good about that pick now.
Yeah. I remember at the time, obviously, Eagles fans weren't all too thrilled, but some of them were, some of them weren't. I agree with you, though. The guy can play, and I had a preseason bet on the guy to be scoring touchdowns this year, so I'm happy that he's doing well. You're going to the Jags-Dolphins game, aren't you, this weekend? Are you looking forward to being in a live atmosphere once again after however long it's been?
I'm looking forward to seeing the gang. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the lads, and I'm looking forward to being in the live atmosphere. Yeah, it's probably my first sporting event of anything since lockdown. I haven't been to see Newcastle play. You can't get a ticket nowadays. It's hard to get. It was hard to get tickets for Newcastle when we were rubbish. Never mind when we're rich. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm looking forward to going. I'm looking forward to seeing the gang. It's going to be really fun. And now that I've done the matchup and I've looked a bit more into Miami and the Jags, and I've been doing some swatting, and I've been looking at matchups and what's intriguing there. I'm now feeling a bit more prepared. I'm feeling like there's a few things that I can watch in this game which will be interesting to us.
So if you were going to take anything on this game, the bets wise, what would you be looking at? Because I'll wait until you've decided. But
when we go into the matchups, I'll validate this prediction more. But I think that this is a game where the Jags can lose their losing streak. I think the Jags can get a win here. One, they're pretty good in London. They come here all the time, so travelling to London's not new for them. And also, they've started running the ball a bit more, and I think the key to this game is in the ground game for the Jags. Should we just go into this match, shall we?
Yeah, why not? Let's hit it. What?
So, first of all, Trevor Lawrence isn't playing as bad as what people think he is playing. What it is, he's been put in bad situations, which is making him look bad. When the games have been in the grasp of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence has been quite decent. It's when they've asked too much of him and he's been asked to carry this team and make up point deficits and do the obscene. The game calling's been very scary with, where he's rightly so. I mean, he's a rookie, floundered. I'll give you an example, Bones. On his rookie debut against the Houston Texans, where they lost that game, and everyone's like, well, they're shit, the Texans. If this Trevor Lawrence kid was any good, he should have blew them away. He threw 3 touchdowns, had 3 interceptions, but he was asked to drop back and pass 51 times on his rookie debut. That is mentalist. Like whoever's calling that play is asking a rookie quarterback on his debut to drop back and throw the ball 51 times is just...
Especially when in college, these guys are playing predominantly under shotgun and pistol and stuff. Like, you're really throwing him into the deep end there.
And they're not really giving him many college concepts. They're not making the job easy on him. Bevel and Urban Meyer came up with this crazy excuse that they wanted to teach him how to be an NFL quarterback. But we see NFL quarterbacks playing more college concepts than ever now. You know what I mean? And it's like, look, Lamar Jackson is one we're going to talk about later on, but look at his evolution. And look at how Greg Roman built an offense and how they worked in RPO and outside zone and the work, designed running plays and focused on isolating certain receivers so you only had one read. And now we're seeing his progression as an NFL quarterback, where last week he threw the ball loads, but you can't expect anybody just to come in and just do that. You've got to give your young quarterbacks a chance, and you've got to give them something they're familiar with. Give them at least 10 or 15 plays each game where they're familiar with it. You know what I mean? And so it's not all new. But yeah, so I really like the Jags matchup in this. I don't know what's happened to Miami. It feels like they feel very lackluster. It feels like the wind's been knocked out. And this is a team that a lot of people said last year, we're ready for the playoffs and we're ready for making a leap. And I know they've had Tua injured, but I've been looking at the stats between Tua and Brissett, and they haven't been too dissimilar, but one thing's been common: just how much each of them quarterbacks, whoever's playing in the backfield for Miami, has been under pressure. 50% of dropbacks, they're under pressure. It's an alarming rate. So I don't think whilst the Jags defense is good, I think the Jags defense is fast and young. I think they've got 2 young pass rushers in Caleb Chason and Adams. Yeah, so yeah, like who are Josh Allen, who are long and who are quick. They've got Miles Jack, who plays in their second level of their defense, who plays linebacker. He can get sideline to sideline. I think that the key to this game, though, is going to be on the ground. It is going to be on the ground. I think the Jags have started to lighten the burden on Trevor Lawrence. And what they've done is rather than go with this committee backfield of Carlos Hyde and James Robinson, they've realised that James Robinson's a talent in that backfield. It's only took them a handful of games to realise that last year wasn't a fluke for him. And they've given him the ball more these last 2 games. And I think it's going to be a massive game for James Robinson this week. If you've got James Robinson in fantasy, start him. If you want to have a bet in this game, have a bet on James Robinson maybe having a touchdown. If you want to be clever, have a bet on James Robinson maybe getting over 100 yards and having a touchdown. Because Miami currently are surrendering 4.5 yards per carry on the ground. And James Robinson, for the season average, is averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And over the last 2 games, he's averaging 6.3 yards per carry. In the last 2 games, he's ran for 227 yards. And he's also scored 3 touchdowns. So he's red hot at the minute. And this is the thing. Most people would overlook that because he's not a Derrick Henry, or he's not a Christian McCaffrey, or he's not playing on a good team. But it doesn't matter because it's about fantasy, and all that stuff is about matchups. And if James Robinson's on your bench, or if he's stashed down a little bit, and you're thinking, or you might have had Nick Chubb, who looks like he's going to be out this weekend. If James Robinson's on your bench, or you're not starting him, get him in your lineup this week, even if it's at the expense of somebody who might be a little bit more, like Ezekiel Elliott. Even if it's at the expense of an Ezekiel Elliott, James Robinson can give points to the ad. He can get over 20 points for your fantasy team this week.
That sounds like a good one to take, to be fair. I mean, the odds aren't bad on him either. I got 23 over 20 for his odds. So it's like a £1 bet will return you on at 2.15. So it's a pretty safe bet, it sounds like, as well. If it's that, that's the comeback on it. That's the returns on it.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins are banged up a little bit. You know, Devonta Parker's out. Preston Williams is questionable. Will Fuller's on IR. So, you know, like the Dolphins are really going to be looking to get yardage out of Jalen Waddle, the rookie. So Jalen Waddle is really the only fit body they've got wide receiver at the moment. I imagine that Preston Williams will suit up. He's questionable. But we know Parker and Will Fuller aren't going to be playing. So on the Miami side of the ball, if you're looking for a wide receiver who can get some points this game, the rookie Jalen Waddle, who's been targeted frequently, who's been used plenty, deep and shallow. I think he's going to have a good game. So if we're going for the Jag side of the ball, I'm starting James Robinson. I'm backing James Robinson.
Yeah,
I'm guessing he's going to have a big day, score touchdowns. I backed him myself for a touchdown. You know, like I backed him for 1 touchdown. I've covered him for 2 touchdowns as well. And if we're looking for a wide receiver who can have a good day, I think it's on the Miami side of the field, and I think it'll be Jalen Waddle.
What do you think about a punt on Gesicki? Obviously, you know, he was a pretty popular target in Miami last year. Do you think he's up for it this year, or?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because Gesicki's had form these last few days, these last few weeks as well. He's had some decent form coming into this. And when I look at the safeties and I look at the secondary of, you know, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm not too sure who would pick Gesicki up. You know what I mean? I'm not too sure who would be the man to take him. It might be one of those where maybe one of their longer corners, maybe Shaquille Griffin, you know, might travel, or he might be asked to match up against Gesicki, and they might just bring out somebody else in on the perimeter. They've got Rayshon Jenkins as well, who plays free safety for them. But I think there is a matchup there. That's a good point. I think there is a matchup there for Gesicki, and I think this could be a tight end friendly game for him. I think he could get some points as well. So that's there's your tight end. So you've got a tight end scorer in Gesicki. You've got a running back scorer in James Robinson, and I would back Jalen Waddle if I was looking at any of the wide receivers in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a massive quarterback-driven game. I think if I was starting any, I think they're both equal starts, to be honest with you. If it's Tua looks like he's going to play. He's been activated off IR. He's travelled with the team to London. He's been practicing this week. So that spells that he's starting, or it should certainly sound like he's starting. And whether Miami can be improved with Tua is because it's been a lackluster year, Bones. It's been a lackluster year. So I'm backing the Jags to win on this. I don't think it'll be particularly high scoring. I think there'll probably be a field goal in it.
Well, the spread's only 3 points, so I mean, you could take the spread, couldn't you, on that?
It's spread in Miami's favour.
It's +3 in Jacksonville's favour, I think.
It's in Miami's favour. I'll just be tempted just to take Miami on the money. The Jacksonville Jaguars on the money line. Then you'll get better price for it. You won't
the over-under's 47 points as well, so I don't know if the over-under tickles your fancy, but
I don't think it does. I don't think this is going to be high scoring. I think the Jags are going to win it 24-21. I think the points are going to be just under. And I really fancy Jacksonville to break their duck on this one. I don't think Miami are playing very good football. I don't think they're going to fancy it.
Fair enough. I mean, that seems like good coverage for that first game of the week. I forgot it was on because it's not on the Sky roster there. But moving on swiftly to the first of the Sky games, we've got the Chargers v Ravens, which should be a cracking game if you ask me. Like, is there anything you've got your eye on specifically about this one?
Mouth-watering game. This is the pick of the games. You've got 2 MVP form quarterbacks. You've got Justin Herbert versus Lamar Jackson. Both teams are Form 1. Both teams have beaten the Chiefs. You know, so you got to think there's a chance you have a home field advantage. You know what I mean? You know, like in that seeding thing, you know, it's a really interesting game. Herbert. I mean, let's just start with Herbert versus Lamar. Eh? Let's just have a look at that. You've got Herbert, who's I've waxed lyrical about Herbert all week. He's brilliant. This kid's brilliant. You know, like he's got so many MVPs in his future. He's just such a good quarterback. He's got really good intelligence. He makes the right play You know, it just seems like he never puts himself into a situation where he doesn't make the right play. And sometimes the right play is that 40-yard bomb, and sometimes it's a 10-yard dump off. He's really good at attacking the flats. I think this game might be a little bit of a difficult matchup for him because the Ravens play a lot of cover one and a lot of cover zero. They're very blitz heavy, which means
some of their blitz formations the other week were unreal. There was no one in the deep field, was there? It was crazy.
Yeah. So and Mike Williams, who's been having a breakout, is banged up. They think he's going to be a game day decision. So Keenan Allen, who is a great route runner, and I bang on him to get open, even in tight man coverage against someone like Marlon Humphrey, you know, who's fantastic cover corner, man cover corner. I still bang Keenan Allen to get some grabs, but I think it'll be minimalised. I think they would have liked, or they'll hope that Mike Williams will be fit this week, because we saw what Henry Ruggs in speed did to the Ravens in week 1 for the Raiders. And Mike Williams is their fast wide receiver. He's a little bit more than that. You know, like he's learned route running, and he's been used a lot differently under this Lombardi offense than what he had been previously under Anthony Lynn's, where he was really just a deep receiver and they were bombing it out to him. This time he's running short routes, go outs, slants, and everything. You know, he's really, he's having a career, he's having a breakout, but he's a game time decision. This is going to be a fascinating game. I love this matchup because Herbert versus man coverage, Lamar Jackson versus cover 6 quarters coverage. The Ravens so far this year have been a very deep game attacking team. Lamar's average depth of catch is 9.1 this year. His average depth of target has been 11.1. So it's quite a vertical offense, this Ravens team. Although last week they did play, they did attack shorter. We saw shorter usage of Lamar Jackson. The Chargers are going to give you nothing up the top. They're going to give you absolutely dick all behind them. They're going to play cover 6. They're going to drop back their 4 secondary players. They're going to drop 2 linebackers into the flat. They're going to say you can take this yardage up the middle, which is evident because they've been very poor against the run. I mean, they gave up 230 yards last week.
Well, I was going to ask this because we've seen that the Ravens' offensive scheme is very good at attacking zone defenses because you've got the read option in the run. You can fully play off cover like zone coverage defenses, so they might really give the Chargers some difficulty here, I think.
I don't think they're going to get anything vertical on the Chargers. I'll tell you why, Bones, right? The Chargers, out of 17 passing attempts over 20 yards, have only allowed 3 passes to be completed.
That is impressive, to be fair. Across 5 weeks of play as well.
Yeah, out of 17 times teams have tried to attack them deep, and they've only allowed 3 completions of a pass depth over 20 yards to Chargers. I mean, the Raiders tried it and absolutely failed. We went into there really vertical on the back of having 3 games of a really vertical offense. And the Chargers, they just shut us down, completely shut us down. And we didn't go underneath. And that's where you can beat these underneath. They're poor in the run game. You know, like I said, they let 130 yards to Cleveland just last week, even though they won that game. They let Chubb and Hunt combine for 230 yards. They got gashed by the Dallas run offense. Zeke and Pollard had decent games. You can beat these on the ground, and I think that this is a game where Lamar Jackson will score points. He's obviously going to be a start if you've got him anyway. But I think we're going to see Lamar Jackson run here. And if I'm backing anything, I said it on the earlier pod, I'm backing Lamar Jackson for a rushing touchdown this week. I'm backing Lamar Jackson for a rushing touchdown this week.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
I really think Bosa at the Chargers is going to have to be on his game. He leads a team with 24 total pressures. It's key. If he gets to Lamar, he's got to wrap him up. If they're getting to Lamar, they've got to wrap him up because we know what he's like as a runner. And I think this is a game which is really difficult for us to pick. I'm still on the fence with it now. If I'm having to put a flag in it, I'm going to say, because the Ravens are at home, I'm going to say the Ravens are going to win this. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a real shootout between Herbert and Lamar. Whilst Herbert, I think, will be spraying the ball around more and looking for matchups against that man coverage. I don't think this is a game where we might see the return of Lamar's legs.
I think that's a good one. Honestly, earlier this week when I did my like £1 ACCA for the games, I took Chargers on the money line because we were discussing earlier this week about how they're basically in Super Bowl form, and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna take the punt. But you're right. It was one that I almost didn't take because I think this game could very much, either team could absolutely dominate this game, or like you say, it could be a very close, high-scoring, full-out offensive game. So that should be really fun to watch. The next one, I think, is another really interesting game that's coming up this weekend, which is the only undefeated team left in the NFL, the Cardinals, versus the Browns, who lost in a heartbreaker last week. So I think both teams will be coming into this one with something to prove. You know, the Cards are getting all this, oh, you're 5-0, but they're all ugly-looking games, and the Browns have just been the first team to score 40 points with no INT and still lose the game. So I feel like both teams have got something's coming into this game to prove. What do you think about this?
This game on paper looks a brilliant matchup until you look at it and you realise it's a battle of the walking wounded. The injury and players who missed time in training on both teams this week is massive, Bones. You know, I'll give you a list of some of the players who have been questionable. Some of them have already been ruled out. So on Arizona's side of the ball, Rodney Hudson has already been ruled out. I don't know how that affects that offensive line. I imagine if you lose a Pro Bowl, that's going to affect it kind of bad. Chandler Jones, their pass rusher, you know, their number one pass rusher, who got all the sacks week 1. He's already been ruled out. You know, so you're missing Hudson and Jones. On bloody hell, Cleveland, it's like, who isn't questionable? Chubb, questionable, ruled out, probably going to be missing. Both offensive tackles have missed time. They're both questionable. So you've got, you know, like both just Compton and Willis, both missed time. They're questionable. They might play. It might be a game decision. J.C. Tretter, probably the best guard in the NFL at the moment. He's questionable. So they're missing 3 parts on their offensive line. The Browns, well, there might be. Denzel Ward, their corner, questionable. Greg Newsome, their other corner, questionable. Byron Murphy, the corner for the Arizona Cardinals, questionable. Marco Wilson, the rookie who's been starting on the other side for the Cardinals, questionable. So I don't know who's going to be. You're missing so many players on both sides of the ball, and I guess it's.
Surely, with all those wounded secondaries and, you know, the defensive players, are you expecting this to be a bit of a shootout?
Kyler Murray's got a duff shoulder. So both quarterbacks have missed time in training. So this week, both Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield have both had to be limited in practice for shoulder injuries. Both of them. So, you know, like, look, I don't know what it is at this point in the season. I don't know what is going on with injuries in Arizona and Cleveland, but it really is a battle of the walking wounded. I expect Baker Mayfield. I expect Kyler Murray both to start, of course, you know, like. But I just think that neither of them are going to be really at 100%. You know what I mean? And we saw this with Kyler Murray last year. You know, we saw him get the shoulder injury, and we saw the Cardinals drop off a cliff. You know, at the back end of the season once he got injured. So yeah, it's. I'm just trying to get up the depth charts here on my phone.
Missing 3 starters on that O line is going to be brutal. I know they've not got necessarily the pass rushers coming against them this week, but still, three starters on your O line missing is probably one of the worst things you can have going into a week, realistically, isn't it? Like,
yeah. I mean, I've just checked now, so I've just went back on the Cleveland Browns depth chart. So this morning, Chubb was questionable. Now he's out. Nick Chubb's definitely out. So Kareem Hunt's in line for some carries, but he's also questionable. So you know what I mean? So this might be a game where we might see a little bit of the rookie Demetric Felton. You know who they really need to get into this game? You know who Cleveland really need to fucking get into the game? Odell Beckham Jr. Because this Cardinals secondary is depleted. They've got Byron Murphy, who's had a bit of a leap. They've got Marco Wilson, the rookie. They've got Robert Alford, the veteran, and he's the only one who's not carrying an injury designation. And I think that this really should be a game for OBJ. The problem is OBJ's been anonymous. Where is OBJ? Who is OBJ? Does he exist?
Glorified decoy at this point on that Browns defense, on that Browns offensive effective. I hear he's not happy about it though. I was
on the trade block.
I was listening to something this week saying the Browns should trade OBJ to someone that needs a wide receiver before the transfer window closes.
I mean, I still have him down as one of the best wide receivers in the game. You know what I mean? There's just something where him and Baker just aren't on the same page.
He's only been targeted 19 times for 9 catches this year for 124 yards. He's not. It doesn't even sound like he's really getting the targets in this Browns offense. Like
no touchdowns either. No touchdowns, Bones. So whilst it would be, you would normally go, well, like OBJ is a fucking must start. On current form, I'm like. He might just get that. You might be lucky if he gets 6 points. You know, I want to back OBJ as a touchdown scorer. I want to back him and say, I think OBJ can go over 80 yards and have a touchdown this game. I want to back him at the bookies. I want to go. I'll take OBJ on as over under whatever his over is. I imagine on current form it's around about 69, and I'll back him for a touchdown as well. Hi there, Eagles Uncensored podcast. Yes, I'm kind of thinking, but I ain't got faith to back him. I haven't got the faith to back OBJ at the minute because this is a matchup which should be his. He should be favored in this matchup. You know, the Arizona Cardinals. I think their offense is very real. I think that Arizona Cardinals offense is very real. I think it is very legit. You know, they do come in the healthier roster on the offensive side of the ball. They are missing Rodney Hudson. You know what I mean? Who will be a miss. But with the injuries and with the questionable players at the Cleveland Browns back end, and what we've seen from this high-powered Cardinals offense, I really like any of DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk. I really like any of them three. I think I might go back and tap the bookies because I had an AJ Green anytime touchdown winner a few weeks back.
I had a D-Hop one last week as well. Yeah. D-Hop won me some money last week, to be fair. I would take D-Hop again.
I told you D-Hop last week. I said D-Hop will have a good game. So yeah, I might go back and I might back AJ Green to get a touchdown this week again. It's a difficult one to choose. Cleveland at home. It's a difficult place to go to, but they are banged up. They are coming off an emotional loss. Arizona, we've seen them beat the Rams this year. We've seen them, you know...
That was a bit more of a healthy lineup, though, I suppose, when they beat the Rams.
I'm gonna say that Arizona win this on the road.
Well, the spread's only 3.5.
I'm gonna say that Arizona win this on the road. I think it's going to be a reasonably high-scoring game. I think. Yeah. I don't know what the over/under is. What's the over/under on that game, Bones?
The over/under is 48.5.
I'm going to back the over. I think it's going to go over 48 points. I think both teams are going to score more than 24 points each. I think it's going to be a 28-30-ish kind of game, you know.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns and a field goal each seems reasonable, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, I'm gonna back Arizona on this one. If I was picking a team to back, I'm going to back Arizona. I'm starting all 3 Arizona wide receivers if I've got any of them on my fantasy bench. I'm obviously starting Kyler Murray. Mayfield hasn't really been too good in fantasy, but I guess if you've got him, you've got to use him.
No, the main scorers on that Browns for fantasy is the 2 running backs that are both knackered.
Yeah. So, and I fancy Kyler Murray for a running touchdown this game. I think Kyler Murray could scamper our touchdown this game. But yeah, it would be a good game, but there's so many injuries. There's so many players questionable. I just don't know. I don't know who's going to start. I don't know who's going to go where. You know what I mean, Bones?
If Hunt is healthy without Chubb, he's going to get 100% of the work. He's definitely worth it. But it depends if that questionable goes away before Sunday, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it does. I'm just getting my homework ready for the next team because the next matchup, again, it just doesn't mean...
This one's... I was going to say, this one's like the opposite of the Cardinals-Browns one, isn't it? It's just going to be a bit... I don't even know if I'm that excited to watch. I'm sorry, Jordan. in advance. But, Russ is out. I guess see if Geno Smith can keep rolling with what he was doing last week. That could be interesting.
You're clutching at straws if you're getting excited about Geno Smith, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm trying.
You really are clutching at straws if you're getting excited at Geno Smith. The Steelers are very healthy going into this game, and I find it hard not to back them to win it outright. I think Najee Harris can have a massive.
I was going to say, I'm putting a Najee anytime on for 100% this week, I think.
Yeah, I'd definitely be backing Najee anytime touchdown scorer. I'll be backing Najee to have over 100 yards total scrimmage, total scrimmage yardage. I'm trying to find a bit of a left field pick for you. Chase Claypool might be a good touchdown scorer. He played well last week. He was found last week. And
what about Freiermuth? I know it's another tight end, and I'm just suggesting tight ends today, apparently. But he's become a popular target for Big Ben, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I think Freiermuth could be in on this. I'm looking at Seattle's team, and I'm thinking, Chris Carson's on IR. Russell Wilson's injured. DK Metcalf, his stock's going to go down with Geno Smith starting. Tyler Lockett, he's so infuriating, Tyler Lockett. When you're trying to in fantasy, but he must be infuriating for Seahawks fan, because one game he can go off and get like 120 yards, and then the next 3 games he can be absolutely anonymous. And I think if you've got a player like him in your lineup, you put him in and you just ride the good times and cower during the bad times, So yeah, I do think that this has got a Steelers win all over it. The only person I'm really happy with backing on this money-wise is Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is good for a touchdown on this. I really fancy him for 1 or 2. If you're going to be backing James Robinson for a touchdown, why don't you not back James Robinson for a touchdown and back Najee Harris for 2 touchdown scores? And if you want to get really creative, why don't you not back James Robinson for 2 touchdowns and back Najee Harris for 2 touchdowns as well, and back that as a double? I bet you that pays some money, Bones.
Do you know what? I'll see now if it's up and you can touchdown score.
While you're having a look at that, okay, I'll talk a little bit about about this Seahawks team. I mean, look, we all said that they were going to struggle this year. We said that the wheels might come off on this team. Nobody asks more of their quarterback than the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. I mean, so much of their play, because our offensive line's been so bad. It's just like, Russell, we're going to snap you the ball. You run around crazily for like 5-6 seconds, somehow stay alive, and then find DK Metcalf off downfield. And DK Metcalf, for God's sake, you just get open and catch it. You know what I mean? And that's how it's kind of like been. Obviously, without Russell Wilson there, without Russell Wilson doing that, I don't think that the Seahawks are going to be in much. Look, the Steelers secondary struggled. There hasn't been anything great. I mean, the Raiders tore them up. Big Ben isn't the player that he was. He's not even close. He's not a shadow of the player that he was. This will definitely be his last season. TJ Watt's on that team. Devin Bush is on that team. They've got Chase Claypool. They've got Deontay Johnson. They've got Najee Harris. I just think that despite Ben being poor, there's players around him who can help him.
Is Deontay healthy this week? Is he?
He hasn't got an injury designation of what I'm looking at the moment on the depth chart. I mean, it might not be
one of Big Ben's biggest targets this year. I feel like Deontay Johnson. He's been really good for them.
He's a class act at wide receiver.
He is. That 2 touchdowns or more on Najee and James Robinson returns £31.20. It's 30.2 to 1.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, if you reckon they're going to get 2 each.
30.2 to 1. So if you put a pound on, you get 33 quid back.
31 quid back.
So if you put a tenner on, you would get 310 quid.
Yeah. £312. £312 for a tenner.
That's got to be worth a little cheeky 2 quid bet, that like.
I reckon so. I might put that on because I was going to take Najee anyway. I was looking for another touchdown scorer one. I might put that on.
I'm just going to have to put a little 30 to 1 odds on them 2 scoring 2 touchdowns each in a double. and it can come through the air or the ground. And both of them are catching balls. Both James Robinson and Najee Harris. Oh, I'm taking that, Bones. I'm having that. I'm having that bet, like, definitely. Oh, I'm writing that down.
Writing it down now.
I guess a Najee Harris brace and a James Robinson brace for the Giants. 30-1. I'm on that. I'm on that bet, me, like.
Well, if there's not much more to talk about in Steelers Pittsburgh, because it's
there's really not.
The last one, I guess, is an interesting one if the Titans can be on form, but if anything like they have been so far this year, I think this is a very one-sided matchup coming into it. But
yeah, this is the other MVP candidate. So we talked about Brady. Well, we didn't, but we saw that game earlier on. We've talked about Herbert. We've talked about Lamar. Talked about Kyler Murray. Now we're doing a talk about Josh Allen. You know, like in the form he's in. Slow start the season. You know, there was always a fear that we were going to see the old Josh Allen and not last year's Josh Allen. But he really warmed up from week 3 onwards. And man, were they impressive against the Chiefs last week. I watched that game. Josh Allen's always good for a rushing touchdown because he is basically the Bills' red zone offense. You know what I mean? Like Brian Daboll is so confident in just handing the ball off to Josh Allen. You know, like just saying, you keep it and do what you want with it.
He is a big dude. He's able to run through a guy as well, isn't he? Like he's not your Kyler Murray. He's not going to jump around the edge of you. He's just going to go through you.
Yeah, so strong. Very few. I mean, like, look, people are talking about Brian Daboll for a future head coaching role. The problem is, though, you'll not find another Josh Allen very easily. Like, you know what I mean? And because he is such a unicorn for his size and everything. I guess the last quarterback we saw with his kind of intangibles would have been Cam Newton. You know what I mean? Who was this big, strapping quarterback who could run as powerful as he could.
The few and far between those prototypes, I feel like. You're like the big names, at least. You got Vic. You've got, like you say, you've got Cam, and then you've got Josh Allen. The big names is that prototype power running quarterback. There's not many of them around.
No, definitely not. I just can't see the Titans containing this Bills offense. I just don't think their defense is very good. They did try to improve it in the offseason. You know, they did draft a rookie corner and Caleb Farley. They have invested in first-round talent on the defensive side of the ball. Harold Landry, who was a second-round pick from Boston College, is having a pretty decent season in the way of pressures. But I just don't see the Titans being able to contain this Bills offense. I do think that the Titans are decent enough on offense themselves. I think what they want to do is they'll want to just keep time of possession. They'll want to run behind Derrick Henry, and they'll want to key in on third downs, and they'll want, you know, like Brown to get open, and they'll want Tannehill to hit them.
They've got healthy wide receivers this week as well, which they've not had for a couple of weeks.
It's a big bonus for them because they're going to need them. But the Bills' defense and coverage has been really good this year. You know, like Levi Wallace, undrafted rookie, one of my very, very, very deep sleepers from a few years back at Bama. He was a walk-on. He's been a starter for that Bills team, and they've tried to replace him every single season. But Levi Wallace keeps on starting opposite Tre'Davious White, and he's not a bad NFL corner. He's like an average NFL corner. You got Tre'Davious White, who I mentioned. You got Micah Hyde, who had a brilliant game last week. You've got Edmonds at linebacker, who's really making a leap and starting to become a really, really premium linebacker in this league. This Bills team, it's just hard to move off them. It's just hard to go. I just don't see a way where, even if the Titans are the best form Titans, and we see, you know, like that if they bring their best quality football, I just don't see a way they can beat this Bills team. They're a very hard team to beat, this Bills team, and I just don't. I think the way you can beat them, the Titans haven't got the weapons to do it.
Yeah, no, I could get behind that. I think that whilst the Titans are a decent team, like this Bills team is on fire at this point. Like you say, I think it's very hard for Titans to do much about them. Is there anything from this that you've got your eye on though, or that I imagine you've got Josh Allen touchdown scorer based on what you were saying before?
Yeah.
But is there anything like the over under or the anything like that?
I just fancy the Bills to win, and I'll be backing it no matter what the spread is. What's the spread on this game?
I'm just getting it now. The spread on this one is Bills minus 5.5.
Yeah, I'm backing that. I think the Bills are going to win it quite comfortably, probably more than a touchdown. I don't
Total
think they'll
points,
get a lot going
53
on
and
the
a half.
ground. Sorry?
The over-under's for 53 and a half.
Yeah, I think it can go over that. I think I'll backdoor cover. I think the Bills will probably put up 30-odd points themselves. And I think that the Titans are going to be playing catch-up, and I expect them to get a couple of late touchdowns to close the gap, but not make it really close. I'm backing the over-under, and I'd also back the Bills on the handicap. I think it's time for Stephon Diggs to have a big game. This is a good matchup for Stephon Diggs. I expect Stephon Diggs to come out and do well this week. Really like this game, all on the Bills side. And naturally, I think that there will be some Titans offensive point scores because they're going to be in catch up. If I'm looking at the Titans offensive player, I'm looking at Ryan Tannehill because he's going to probably have to beam the ball a lot. I'm looking at Brown because Julio Jones really hasn't settled in there just yet. I don't think Derrick Henry will have the huge kind of Derrick Henry games that we see him have. Just I think they're going to have to get away from the run as the Bills build points on them.
Thing is, even an average game for him is still pretty damn good, isn't it? Is the problem.
He's still going to get a touchdown. He's still going to get yardage. You know,
because he is a receiving option. I know he always comes out the backfield when he is, but he can catch the ball as well, can't he?
He started catching more balls, a bit like Leonard Fournette at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've seen him catching more balls. It's going to be a good game, but it's going to be the Bills. I can't say anything other than the Bills getting that.
I have to agree on that one, I think. And that quite nicely wraps up the week's games, which moves us on to... do you do your fantasy football picks next, isn't it?
Yeah, we do our fantasy picks. So we try to pick. So we look at last week's. I think Tom beat me last week.
So last week is here.
Jesus,
and he did.
Killed me.
Wow. He did pretty well last week with those picks.
He did. He cheated a little bit because we tried to see. Well, I suppose he had Cordell Patterson and Kadarius Toney. We tried not to name the obvious names. You know what I mean? So let's come back this week. I've got some sleepers for you. So does Tom give you his picks? Is he?
No, I think based on his message in the group chat before, Tom said, "Do me proud in the fantasy football picks." I think he's putting it on me to try and win again for him. So we'll see. Let's have a look. I'm going to get my fantasy app up now and have a quick peek at what I think.
Well, I think I'm quite confident in who I'm going to go for. I'm going to start with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I'm going to have Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I'm going to have James Robinson at running back for the Jags. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to have Najee Harris.
Damn it! I was going to take Najee.
So I'm going Lamar Jackson. I'm going Najee Harris, and I am going to go at wide receiver. I am going to go Stephon Diggs.
Okay. You've made my life a bit harder because you took my running back. So I'll start with wide receiver. I'm going to go Jamar Chase.
Okay.
I think because Chase is playing against us. Again, sorry, Chris, if you're watching this, but we have a terrible secondary. I think Chase is going to eat us alive. Running back. Like you say, I'm trying to steer away from someone too obvious. Let's say Devin Singletary. Is he playing? Is he not questionable or anything this week?
No,
he's
playing.
Because he's been doing bits for the Bills, I think, this year, Singletary, and then quarterback. Who? It's a tough choice, isn't it? I really think it's a hard choice. Who's got a good matchup this week? That's the question, isn't it? Really. There's bye weeks on as well this week. Jeez, I forgot. It's already bye week time. Do you know what? I'm sorry, Tom, if it doesn't pan out. I'm going to take Darnold because, barring last week, he's been having a pretty good year.
So you're going to go Darnold, Singletary, and cheap. Wow, you are going cheap. You are going cheap. Well, mine on paper at least looks like it's going to annihilate that because I'm going Lamar, Harris, and Diggs. I do think Chase will have a good game this week, though. If we go through the games, I'll tell you a good bet for each game. Go through the games again. I'll tell you what I'm taking as a standout bet. as a
just
standout fantasy player.
Just the Sky ones, yeah?
Well, we'll start off with the Jets. So the Jets, we bet James Robinson a touchdown or two, and he's my standout fantasy player. Let's go. Let's go to the Ravens game. I am going. If I'm seeing anybody in that game, I'm going Lamar Jackson again. I said him last week, and I said him this week. I think Lamar Jackson will get a touchdown on the ground. I think we'll probably see more running Lamar Jackson as the Chargers defense looks to go deep quarters coverage and give them the underneath, and they haven't defended the run that well this year. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson that game. The Arizona game against the Browns. Should I be bold and should I say OBJ? I want to say OBJ. But Kareem Hunt will get points that game. I'd also back him to score a touchdown.
Oh, that should have been my running back, really. What a mistake to make it.
Yeah, and then and then we've got the Steelers, well, Najee Harris, and then we've got the Bills and the Titans. Stephen Diggs.
It's a good selection of players. Do you know, I should have picked Hunt for that running back. Whatever. I think they're not obvious picks. I don't feel like my one because I could have gone like what Aaron Jones or those kind of running backs. But
you could have chosen. I wouldn't say that's obvious. I said we always argue that the obvious ones are like Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry. Like maybe Devonta Hopkins. Like the number one in each their position. Do you want to change it? You can change it because there's a lot riding on it.
I feel bad if I lose for Tom. I don't want to lose for him, and then I'll never live it down. Go on, let's swap. I am going to swap Singletary for Aaron Jones because I do think against the Bears and the way he's been playing this year in receiving and rushing, I think he could do well in that game. It's a brutal game. It's a game that they want to. It's someone described it this week as a blood game, like it's a proper blood game, and I really.
Yeah. So there you go. Then you're going Donald, Aaron Jones, and Jamar Chase. That reads a lot better. That Bones. I'm
sorry, Tom, if it does lose in advance, but. I genuinely think Chase is on for at least a touchdown, if not more, this week. I think
Chase is going to have a really big game. I do think Chase is going to have a really big game this week.
Our secondary's just falling apart.
I've just fancied Diggs. I think Diggs is going to have a couple of touchdown game at some point. I'm going to try and ride it until he gets one.
I was going to say this happened to me last week when I bet on Pittman was because he was doing really well but hadn't had many touchdowns this year. I was like, I fancy him to get one soon, so I chucked the bet on him and it came in. So no, I get that. I
had money on Mark Andrews this week. Remember, I said I was like I did well in my bets. Like I had the Ravens to win, and I had Mark Andrews to score a touchdown or something like that.
Oh, and my Thursday
off, it was just purely because I was like, at some point they're going to try and get him into the game.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that as well. It's like my one this week was AB. I was like, well, he had such a good week this last week. You go to the hot hand, don't you? You don't move away from that. So he's on my acca.
When you've got a clear game player, that's why I want to back OBJ. I want to back OBJ, but I just can't. I've been hurt. Been hurt too many times by OBJ. Because this game, he should go off. He should go off.
Yeah. They've just not. At least, like you say, it's like as if there's just not that link there. Like we were talking on the other pod earlier this year about the connection Stafford and Kupp have made. It's like OBJ and Baker just don't have that kind of connection. Do you know what I mean? Like watching them. Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not, but it does feel that way a little bit.
They just don't look on the same page, do they?
No.
Because this should be a big week for OBJ, but we've been through the matchups. We can move off now. Let's say goodbye to people. Let's hope that those who are going to the game on the weekend down London, enjoy it. I'm going to be there.
Yeah, have a good time, man. I hope it's a good one. One day I'll get to go.
Yeah, let's hope that people have got some good bet. I love that Harris 2 touchdowns.
I've already put Robinson,
that on 2 touchdowns double. I love it.
I'm gonna give it a punt because I reckon that's a good one if it does. Put 2 on.
I love it. 30-1. Love it. I'm sticking £2 on it.
Catch you soon, man. Have a lovely weekend, and thank you everyone who was listening. Follow us at Third and Short Pod and all that jazz, which is right there at the bottom.